On this channel, I talk a lot about investing. The whole idea is that we're trying to build wealth as quickly as possible and by making good financial decisions. But we're at the end of the year, and what happens at the end of the year? People are trying to make resolutions, people are motivated to try to improve their lives, and I wanted to talk about 5 steps that I'm taking to make sure that I can reach financial independence. This is more than just investing. That's pretty much only what I talk about on this channel, and I want to go a little bit away from that and talk about some of the behavioral aspects of finance that make such a big impact on your long-term financial future that I wanted to discuss it because I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough. So these are the 5 steps that I'm going to be using to make sure that I can build wealth, and not only build wealth, but be able to be financially independent. This is more than just having X amount of dollars in the bank. It's about being able to trade your time for money. This is why so early on you're working so hard to try to make as much money as possible because you don't have the ability to not work. And we want to get to the point where we can decide what we want to do with our lives. And these are the 5 main steps that I wanted to talk about in this video. They might not work for everyone, but these are the 5 steps that I'm using. And let me know which steps you would swap out or which ones you think are the most important to your financial journey. So number 1, I put this up first because I think it's the most important, and that's making sure that my expenses stay the same no matter where I am in my life. This is the idea of the hedonic treadmill that gets talked about so frequently on YouTube. It's the idea that no matter what you do and change in your life, your level of happiness is going to go down to a certain baseline. And this is not going to change whether if you buy a brand new car or a new house or if you buy some new jewelry. And it's the idea of keeping up with the Joneses, where you see your friends are buying other stuff, so you want to be just like them and you spend your money on that as well. And we want to avoid that at all costs. The whole idea of getting raises and progressing in your career is that you're going to have more money to be able to invest and save. My main philosophy is that I'm trying to keep my expenses exactly the same. So that's why I don't budget, because ideally month to month, my expenses are going to be exactly the same. So when I'm getting raises at work, or maybe I get a bonus, work some extra overtime, that is additional money that's going to be automatically invested and saved for the long term, instead of something where I'm like, oh, I got an extra $100 this month, I might as well go out to a nice dinner. This doesn't mean that you can't enjoy your life, but it's the idea of as you progressively get a higher and higher paying job, if you can keep your expenses the same, those raises are automatically going in and increasing your net worth almost immediately by being able to be invested, put into a safety fund, something that's going to protect you financially for the long term instead of just immediately spending it. So this is the most critical thing for me, and this is where I'm planning for the next year, and I'm looking to see what my major expenses are, just so I'll have a baseline of what my minimum expenses are going to be, so that when I do, in theory, get some raises or work some extra overtime, I'll kind of have an idea of where I'll be spending on the stuff that I have to, like food, gas, groceries, that type of stuff, so that everything additional can be invested. That's how I went from pretty much living paycheck to paycheck in 2020 when I started in my career field, to saving 35% of my income and investing that all in this current month of December. So this was a huge change for me, that I didn't make that much more money, but the idea is that I kept my expenses relatively the same. I downsized when it came to housing, and that's been able to allow me to invest way more aggressively than I would if I was keeping the same lifestyle and increasing my spending as my income went up. And going along with that additional investing is number 2, we're going to talk about the dividend snowball. And if you don't want to use a dividend snowball, it's just consistent investing. It's the idea of avoiding lump sum. The more decisions that have to be made about when and where you want to invest, the less likely I believe you're going to actually successfully invest. The whole idea of the dividend snowball and consistent investing is that if you can take some of the decision processes out of it, out of investing, you're more likely going to be able to invest more money into the overall market. The dividend snowball, for people that don't know, I'll throw up a video. I made a full video about it like a week and a half ago talking about it. But it's the idea of using dividend stocks, and the dividends that you come in give you such an incredible level of flexibility. You can do whatever you want with them. You can use them to pay off bills. You can use them to reinvest back into your dividend stocks, which is the DRIP, or the dividend reinvestment plan, or you can use them for some fun expenses. You can do whatever you want with them. And that's why I think it's so exciting for talking about financial independence, that these dividends give you so much more flexibility than having your money locked up in an individual stock that you're not going to be able to touch unless you decide to actually sell off your shares. So that's why I think it's so beneficial. But it's the idea of the dividends come in, and as we're trying to build wealth as quickly as possible to reach that level of financial independence, it gets automatically invested back into that same stock. So the next time that you get a dividend, it's going to be slightly higher. This is why I set up automatic deposits weekly, so I don't have to think about it. The less you have to think about it, the less friction there is, the more I believe you'll be able to invest for the long term, and that's why I put that as number 2 on my step of my plan to reach financial independence. Then we're going to go down to number 3, and this is kind of a controversial one. It has to do with debt. Debt is a very important topic right now because right now we have these student loan freezes. Who knows how much longer that's going to go on, but and part 3 is going to be talking about not paying off low interest debt. This could be a faux pas depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to someone like Dave Ramsey, his whole thing is paying off debt as soon as possible, but I don't think that's the best thing. Money is a fantastic tool. That's why we're trying to invest aggressively, but there is an opportunity cost that goes along with having money. If you're putting additional funds to trying to pay off a debt early, that means that that money is not going to be able to be used elsewhere. And in this instance, in my idea of low interest debt is anything below 5%, the whole idea is that while the stock market right now especially is so low, I believe that it's going to be able to beat that interest rate for the long term. Right now I have a car loan that's for the next 3 years of an interest rate of 3.17%, which in my mind is low interest debt. Is the idea that I could pay that off early, but in my mind with the stock market being down, in bear market territory still, the likelihood of it going up the 10%, which is the average that it's done over the past 100 years, I think is pretty high. So I think it's going to be able to outperform that interest rate and means that it's going to allow me to build more wealth for the long term. My expectation is with the market being down that when it does slingshot back up to where it was previously, we're probably going to see like 15% returns for the next 5 years. Not financial advice, that's just kind of what I'm expecting to happen. So yes, you could pay off that debt early, but that's going to come at the opportunity cost of not being able to invest in this fantastic opportunity. When we're looking at the market, you should see these discount signs in all of your favorite stocks. We're going to try to avoid the growth stocks, the ones that are going to have additional risk associated with them. But if this is a fantastic blue chip stock that's been around for a long time, I am so happy to buy shares of my favorite companies at a discount right now and not pay off that debt a little bit early. Yes, you're going to have your loan be a little bit larger. This does not apply to mortgages. Mortgages are kind of their own beast. That's kind of why they have their own name. And it does not apply to that, but for student loan payments, for car debt, I'm not going to be paying off my low interest debt early, and that's going to be part 3. Number 4 is going to be having to do with housing. Housing is the largest expense you're likely going to ever pay. If you're renting, this is going to be a huge part of your income is just kind of disappearing. So the whole idea is that we want to be able to buy a house as quickly as possible. Historically, this has been the best place for Americans and people around the world to build wealth. And for a lot of people, it's the largest asset that they're ever going to own. The problem with it is that it is not liquid. So it's a concept of being house rich and cash poor. You, in theory, if you look at your net worth, you have an incredible net worth because your house has increased in value significantly over the past, 10, 15 years since you've lived in it. But that cash is not accessible. It's something where, in theory, you do have it there, but to be able to access it, you're going to have to take out an equity loan against your house, or you're going to have to be able to sell it. So you don't have the liquid flexibility that this wealth building tool is going to have. So as I'm in my mid 20s, I'm almost 26, my birthday is in like a week and a half, 2 weeks, I'm looking to buy my first house with my partner, which is incredibly exciting. And thankfully, we're on the same page of what we're looking for. We don't need to buy something that's going to impress our friends or family members. We're trying to buy something that's realistic and something that we're going to be able to afford. That's the biggest thing. With housing prices in 2020 skyrocketing as a result of people being less tied to the major cities, interest rates falling, housing prices went up significantly. During that time, we saw housing prices in 2020 were up 11.3%, and then they went up 17.8% in 2021. So these people that know that housing is probably the biggest asset that you'll ever buy in your life, and they want to be a part of it instead of just throwing their money away to a landlord with rent, people were chasing houses that may have been out of their price range. And especially when you have things like not doing appraisals, not doing inspections, this brings a lot of risk into the house buying process. So my whole thing is not overpaying on a house. That could be size, but that could also be in a time like now, not trying to chase the overall market. Yes, we want to get you into a house as soon as possible, but we want to make sure that you're actually able to afford it, and that we're making sure that historically you want to have like 25% of your income going to housing. I know that with right now, that could be a little bit higher. I'd probably go up to 40% just to make sure that you can get into a house as soon as possible. But you don't want to be house rich and cash poor. On paper, it'll make you look like you're financially independent, but when most of your cash is stored up in your house and you can't access it easily, not as flexible and not as financially independent as the dollar amount would make it look like. And then number 5, the last thing on this list, is career growth. Career growth is kind of a complicated topic because a lot of people, picked a career when they're 18 years old, and they're afraid to move away from something that they spent so much money, going to a university, a community college, and they don't want to switch away from that. But I'm here to say that if you're in a career field that you don't love, I think you should consider leaving it and looking for something else. It is not something where in the past you started in one career and you worked in that one field or that one business for your entire life. That's not the case anymore. Historically, on average, people change careers between 3 and 7 times during the course of their lifetime. This is not just change the business that they're working for. These are major career changes. And if you're in something that is either mentally, physically draining, or it's just not something you enjoy, it might be beneficial to look for other options. We want to get to the point where we're financially independent, but we don't want to have to slog through the next 5, 10, 15 years doing something that we absolutely hate just so that we can reach this future that's going to be much better. I'm in a career field where I'm not going to be making a lot of money. Conservation is not something that's highly paid. I could go on a full rant about why I disagree with that as being a concept, but that's the state of where it is. So I'm looking for opportunities to increase in my company, get higher and higher, which will give me more responsibility, which will make me more attractive for future careers. But I'm also trying to make the switch over to a government job, which historically is much better when it comes to benefits and job security. So even if you are set in the area that you are right now, whether it be the job that you're working at or the career field, I think it's always nice to kind of look for other options out there because you don't have to stay in a career field that you picked at 18 years old. If you find something that you think is going to improve your life, whether it be a shorter commute, better wages, better benefits, I think it's worth taking a look at, and it's not something that needs to be shamed. Everyone changes jobs, everyone changes career paths, and if you're getting to the point where your job is burning you out, we are probably going to want to switch out of that and look for something that we're going to enjoy a lot more. So overall, these are my 5 steps that I'm going to be taking to reach financial independence. Financial independence looks different for pretty much everyone. I've talked about the FIRE movement, where some people are looking to retire early and live off of $25,000 a year and just live the simple life and not have to work for the rest of their lives. Some people want to reach the type of lifestyle where they're able to spend aggressively and enjoy themselves. That really is going to be different for every person, but the 5 steps that I talked about in this video I think are applicable to pretty much everyone, because not only are we trying to build wealth, we're trying to avoid making these huge financial decisions that are going to put us back significantly. This is stuff like taking on additional debt that you don't need. This is stuff like having a major expense for something that could be protected, so making sure that your insurance payments are actually protecting you is a major factor that goes into financial independence that is not as exciting to talk about. I talk about a lot on this channel the importance of investing. We're trying to translate our likely low wealth, because I am in a low paying career field, to make it to the point where we can retire comfortably in the next 40 to 50 years. But if you have to go back a step and you're building wealth for all these years and you make this one major mistake and it pushes you back significantly, that's going to be not only demoralizing, that's going to be really upsetting to see that you've kind of gone back a couple steps. So make sure that your deductibles, your liabilities are covered so that you're not going to go backwards, in addition to these 5 steps to try to build wealth going forward. Let me know what you thought about this video, and if there are any things that you would change, something that maybe I forgot that you believe is going to be very important, or you've used it yourself to build wealth and become financially independent. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you'd like to see more videos from me, I'll throw it up on the screen right now. I feel like I've gotten the pointing wrong every time I've done it. So it's on one of these sides as one of my previous videos. And if you have enjoyed my content, be sure to subscribe to see the next video that I put out. And if you made it this far, be sure to hit that like button, because I'm sure the algorithm will really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. My name is Andy, and I will see you in the next video.